All right, welcome in. A very happy Friday to you. It is game time decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel. I can't believe they put the band back together here. My goodness. The A team in full effect on a Friday. And that's good news because we got a loaded slate. Who doesn't love the CFL? No, I'm only kidding. No, I'm only kidding there too. Major League Baseball, yes, plenty of that getting ready today. No afternoon games finally. So we got a full slate here tonight. 15 games getting ready to start. Next hour, we'll cover all those games for you. We're also very excited because I maybe it's me, Scotty, but last night had to have been one of the, and I thought the game was going to be terrible. But as far as Hall of Fame games go in preseason football, had to be one of the more entertaining games I least expected to see in a very, very long time there. And not because, Kenny Pickett was playing in it, but because I was going to be real interested to see what we were going to get from Haynes King, who a lot of people thought should have came out of Georgia Tech earlier than he did. Undrafted, free agent rookie signed with Carolina. And, of course, Carson Beck from the U and Georgia. Both guys feel like they played till they were 40 in college. But can I tell you something? They were both pretty good against the second and third teamers. Granted, it wasn't the starters, but so what? You still got to be able to produce no matter who you're playing with. And I got to tell you, I was pretty impressed with both guys last night.
Yeah, I tell you, outside of having to deal with Chris Collinsworth, who it only took me one game to remind me how bad is he just brutal? I mean, Carson Beck's first drive, Joe, he's talking about how he's like a 7-time All-Pro player. Even Mike Tirico, who's pretty good, I like Mike, even he was like, Chris, take it easy. It's the first freaking drive. Let him get out the first quarter before you send him to the Hall of Fame here. I know it's the Hall of Fame game. Oh, Collinsworth is he's just unlistenable, Joe. He's just unlistenable. But that said, the other thing we learned with is, these mediocre quarterbacks like the Kenny Pickett's of the world, one thing I've noticed in these preseason games, if they stink in the regular season, if they actually play, they generally also stink in the preseason. It's the rookies who come in that actually tend to play a little bit better versus the Kenny Pickett's of the world. And that's how a lot of people, bet on basically who the backup quarterbacks are, right? But I also love to look for these scrambling quarterbacks, and really it came to perfection. I like Carolina. Listen, got fortunate, right? But the reason they won is because, Haynes King is running the ball all over the place on that last drive, including the touchdown drive. Yep. Looks like he's got a little moxie. He's not a bad guy to keep on your roster. So, yeah, it was a good entertainment. 33-30, man. This is also, Joe, the 5th time that the Hall of Fame game has gone over. I know the perception is with these preseason games that, 10-3 all over the place, but that's really not the case. A lot of these preseason games actually, because there's fewer games, so you got starters playing a little bit more each game. So I like the over. I hit with Carolina. But that said, who cares what I done? But I was impressed, with Haynes King and Carson Beck, both of them.
I thought for sure it was going to be terrible, but you're right. It's a 5th straight now. Hall of Fame over. Hall of Fame game over. So, and usually it's supposed to be, call me crazy, but it's supposed to be the defenses are supposed to be ahead of the offenses. If any of those guys in the secondary in either Arizona or Carolina are vying for either a starting role or a backup role, they might want to find some other avenue to make a living because, boy, oh boy, those secondaries got absolutely torched. But having said that, let's look at who the backup quarterbacks are going to be for both those teams this year. Gardner Minshew and Kenny Pickett, both of those guys that I watched last night are more than capable of taking the backup role from the Kenny Pickett's and Gardner Minshews of the world. Scott, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And people don't realize, or maybe they do, I don't know, but if you're a backup like Kenny Pickett or Gardner Minshew, you make more money. Every year you're in the league, you make more and more. Your minimum is higher and higher and higher, which means you got to really outperform the Carson Becks or the Haynes Kings of the world. Otherwise, teams will just say, well, why should we pay you, $750,000 when we could pay this guy $300,000? So, yeah, those guys, one game, great, but they may have earned themselves at least a decent shot anyway of sticking on these clubs.
Yeah, both look good. And you know what, if it's one thing that we know that this league needs, it's quarterbacks
Yes.
of all shapes and sizes and all different types. Now, Carson Beck, experience, yes. The guy's played a lot of football in his time. He's not going to run all over you, but he did in a couple of times progress through his read last night and ran the ball 3 or 4 yards for a first down. And guess what? You can make a living in the NFL if you can do that all year. I don't want either of those guys anywhere near the Jets because I only need them to win 1 or 2 games this year. That's all I'm looking for out of them. But, Chris Winke's another guy. It feels like he played 100 years in college football, right? These guys, they come in, they're not intimidated. It's not too big for them. And they come in and they do what they've been doing for the last 17 years in college football, is they go out there and they play the game. So it's good to get the first game in the books. I still have no idea what Arizona is going to look like this season. I'm still not expecting a whole lot from them, and I think that's by design. But I do think Carolina, I liked them coming into this year. I really liked it because I thought Bryce Young, the game finally slowed down enough for him last year where we're starting to see that guy take that next step. I think he's got the right coach. I just hope they stop getting guys injured and blowing out their knees before the season starts. That would be fantastic. But Arizona, to me, looks like a 4-win team. Carolina looks like they might be able to win a few more games this year.
Yeah, maybe. I got to see it to believe it, though. I'm not quite there with them. This could be a rough year for Canales in that he's one of the guys, Joe, that I penciled that could get fired, even though you think, no, the guy won the division last year. Yeah, but he won the division last year going 8-9. They won the division by default. So if they don't get to 500 or higher, that means Bryce Young's probably not playing well. And I could see this team just saying, time to reshuffle the whole deck. Let's get rid of Bryce. Let's get rid of Canales and start all over again. Hope it doesn't happen because they did show a lot of progress, as you said, from year number 1 to year number 2, which I didn't think they were going to make because, man, Bryce Young looked so bad 2 years ago. But decent enough schedule, playing the NFC South, obviously. So the opportunity is there. Let's see if they take the opportunity and grab it and run.
Yeah, we had some other news and notes around the NFL today. We're hearing, let me tell you something. If Odell Beckham Jr., if I read one more story about Odell Beckham Jr. doing enough to earn a spot on the Giants, how bad are the receivers for the New York Giants if a over-the-hill Odell Beckham Jr. has a shot at actually making the roster here, Scotty? Would there be any bigger shock to you than Odell Beckham Jr. making this team?
Yeah, listen, if he couldn't cut it with the Dolphins last year, Joe, when all the injuries the Dolphins had with their wide receivers and he was invisible, or 2 years ago with Baltimore, if he got on the field and even made the team, let alone actually played, I would be surprised. It's a good story. He started there and all that other stuff, and there's articles every day in a newspaper here in New York with Odell. It's like, he's not making, again, you're right. If he actually does make it, that tells you how bad that wide receiving core is. It's not great, but they brought in a lot of other veteran players that I think are going to end up knocking him off the roster.
Darius Slayton is there. Right. I mean, you got Darnell Mooney. You've got Calvin Austin III. Malachi Fields was supposed to be a guy. Yeah, I mean, but to me, I don't care what it is. Malik Neighbors better get on the field at some point because every time they talk about him, I just don't feel like I'm getting a straight answer as, okay, so when is he playing? Like how is the rehab? It just feels like they keep kicking the can down the road because maybe, just maybe, it's not going as well as they thought. We'll see, because he would be a big addition to the Giants this year in Jackson Dart. We got much more NFL to get you ready for as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid. All right, welcome back in. Happy Friday to you. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel. We're going to get you ready here. Plenty of Major League Baseball tonight. Starting next hour, in fact, with the Mets, the red-hot Mets, getting ready to take on the Pirates. If you could, and the Pirates are just, so glad they fixed that bullpen. The problem is, if you can't score runs, you can't win games, Scott, and that's the problem right now with the Pirates, although they had done a pretty good job against the Brewers all season long until, of course, this last series. But now they're home. They're at PNC. The Mets at some point are not going to keep scoring 13 runs a game. That's not going to happen. Thornton has looked pretty good so far this year, but just at some point, right, the Mets are going to be a team like 16 games under 500. They're eventually going to play like that again, are they not?
Yeah, more than likely. It might not happen tonight, though, Joe. And here's why. Pittsburgh, a mediocre team, right around 557 and 60. But there's no team that has a bigger split, righties versus lefties, than the Pittsburgh Pirates. Thornton is a lefty. Against righties, Pittsburgh is 47 and 36, 11 games over 500. They're facing a lefty, Scott. They're 14 games under 500 versus a lefty. MLB worst, 10 and 24. You know, they're fluky things, and the starters only go 5, 6, 7 innings tops, and you throw a little. But when you have that big of a split, that you would be 11 games over against righties and 14 games, that's a 35 or that's a 25 game swing. 10 and 24 against a lefty. The Mets are actually live dogs. You said Thornton's pitched halfway decent. Mets are playing halfway decent. He's got an ERA under 3. Here's the other goofy thing with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're the strangest team, right? They also have one of, if not the number one split in day and night games. During the day, weekend games for the most part, right? They're 31 and 22. What about at night, though? At night, they're 26 and 38. So they're 9 games over 500 during the day, but 12 games under 500 at night. What's the difference? I don't know. Is it fluky? They're playing better teams on during the day. I don't know, but that's a 20-plus game swing also. So you got the wrong swings with the Pirates tonight. Awful against lefties, and it's a night game. Got to bet the Mets plus odds to me.
Yep. But it's 8.5, 8s we're seeing for total. See if some runs can be scored. But I don't trust either offense at all here. And listen, Budzinski hasn't started a game in forever. He's coming out of the pen. It's going to be a bullpen game. They did spend some money on the bullpen, at least Pittsburgh. But again, if you can't score runs, it's not really going to matter how well your bullpen pitches if you can't get it done there. We are also going to see one new. I don't understand what Toronto did at the trade deadline, Scott. Maybe you can help me. Why you're trading for Soriano is beyond me. When again you can't hit water if you fell out of a boat. You're 8 games 8 games under 500. Blue Jays. They're taking on the Phillies. Zach Wheeler, $2 favorite Philadelphia, and I'm having a hard time figuring out if I like the over here 7.5 at Citizens Bank Park here tonight.
Yeah. If you trade for Soriano, then you keep Gausman, right? I mean, you don't, they swapped them. If you're at first place, you can make a swap like that, but not when you're in last place and you got to pick up ground if that's what you're doing. So, yeah, maybe that over 7.5, Phillies, they're so inept at times at, batting. So, you don't know really what you're going to get out of them. Wheeler, good news, bad news with Wheeler pitching tonight, Joe, that he's only thrown 5 combined innings in his last 2 starts. One because he was awful. The other one because there was a rain delay in Baltimore, and they didn't bring him back after 2 innings. So he only has 5 innings under his belt the last couple of weeks. Is that good? Is that bad? We don't know. Soriano debut? Is he happy he's with Toronto? You know, I used to play, and I have again this year for the most part anyway. These first appearances for these pitchers with these new clubs, and you know sometimes it works out, other times it doesn't. It really is a 50-50 proposition. We saw Mize get lit up with Detroit or with San Diego rather the other day. So I wouldn't use Soriano making his Toronto debut as any reason to really to bet them. So Philadelphia would be the play to me if you were going to play it.
Yeah, you're right, because especially the guys that were pulled from their last start there, Scott, and were asked to, now they got extended rest. Like, you know, Mize hadn't pitched in 11 days. Like, what are you, Peralta got lit up. Like, what are you doing here? Like, you give these guys are creatures of habit. You're pulling them. They haven't pitched in, 10, 11, 12 days, and that's exactly what you get there. And we'll see Zach Wheeler. I don't think the Blue Jays bat. Maybe a team total under for me with the Blue Jays, because I just can't see them scoring enough runs to even make that game competitive there. The Nationals, who traded away, well, just about two of their best hitters. The Phillies took advantage of them last night with 7 doubles in the first 3 innings. We never seen anything like it, Scott. It was hysterical. Watching that game yesterday here on the show, but their best pitcher is still there, and that's Cade Cavalli, and he's taking on a Reds lineup that we don't really trust the Reds to score enough runs against him, do we?
Yeah, I don't know what the Nationals did, Joe. They traded away one of their best young hitters, and then they traded away one of their best pitchers. For a team that, it was still very much in the playoff hunt. That was bizarre to me. I know both guys could be, scrap heap reclamation projects, and both have come through this year. But man, if you're in the playoff hunt like they were, what are you doing, right? And now they lose James Wood. He's got an oblique strain, so he's not going to be in the lineup tonight. They've lost 9 of their last 10 as Washington. You want to give me Cincinnati, small odds, basically pick them depending on where you do your shopping. I will take that even against Cavalli, who you said is their better pitcher right now, but still. Cincinnati, they did win 3 in a row. Maybe turning things around. The 2 games under 500, getting themselves back into the playoff picture. I'll take a shot on the Reds tonight.
Yeah, I'm so disgusted with the Reds. I mean, they should have been much better than they did.
They made the playoffs
and now Hunter Green is done.
Yeah,
right. Hunter Green is done now too. So it's like, my God. But the bullpen has been very good. Here in the summer, over the last couple of weeks, the bullpen has finally figured some things out. Well, they're going to have to, though. Tonight looks like it's going to be a whole lot of young arms they're going to be throwing out there. But they should absolutely score more runs than what they have been doing. Cavalli's going to be tough. We'll see if he can get it done. Those are your 6 next hour games. We got more to get to as Game Time Decisions continues. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. A very happy Friday to you. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel. We just went over to 3 games coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. We got the Yankees taking on the Braves and the Bronx. Much to get to with those games coming up here. Of course, Max Fried, former Atlanta Brave, getting to take on his old team there. But also the NFL, now that it is front and center and the preseason has officially begun after last night. A couple of other news and notes here, Scotty. Apparently, Cam Taylor-Britt has been suspended for the Colts season opener after he was busted and spent 5 days in jail and just pled guilty to reckless driving and driving without a license. I don't even know how that happens. But I believe that game is against the Ravens. So that's the NFL's slap on the wrist for your personal conduct policy there. And also, is Aaron Donald really going to unretire and come back and play with the Rams? And is there any need for him to do it prior to November or December, Scott, is my question.
Exactly.
Right?
That's right where I was gonna go, Joe. I mean, what are you doing? First of all, they don't really need you for the regular season, or at least they would love to have you. But you're thinking Super Bowl with this team. It's Super Bowl or bust. They're the overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl this year with the boys in Vegas. So what do they want? Listen, we don't want you in September. We don't want you here in July and August. Don't get yourself hurt. We don't need to see you. We understand you're working out. You're in shape. We get it. Forget about the July, forget about August, forget about September, hell, even forget about October. You know what? We'll see you around Thanksgiving or so. We'll get you to the postseason. You come around Thanksgiving, you play in December, get about 4, 5, 6 games under your belt, get a feel for it again, and then come playoff time, boom, let's go. Don't risk it, and don't tell him no now. He may, and I thought this was going to be the case for him. I really thought he would tell the Rams, listen, I'm interested, but I'm not going through 105 temperatures and killing myself. I'm too old for that stuff. Forget about it. I'll talk to you in September, and we'll pick it up from there if you want. You don't want him to make a decision in August that's going to affect your team in February. If you're thinking he really doesn't want to come back, then don't push it. It's the old Bill Parcells story that Bill Belichick told about how when he was defensive coordinator with the Giants, and Lawrence Taylor used to come to the meetings late all the time, and he would tell Bill, "Hey, listen, Lawrence, late again, late again, late again." And Bill eventually told Bill Belichick. He eventually told him, "Listen, don't start the meeting then. Don't make it we got to point out that he's not ready to start these meetings. Don't start the meeting until he gets there." Same thing with the Rams, Joe. Don't force the guy to make a decision now when he could very easily say no, and then it would be a bad look if he then later in November said okay. But he could do that now. He could push it off and just not be with the club. So, but I think he's coming back. I would be surprised if he wasn't coming back though. Long story short.
Yeah, listen, as long as he remains in shape, right, and he feels he can go from the couch, and quite honestly, watching Phillip Rivers do it last year at the quarterback position, sure, why not, Aaron Donald? I'm in with you there. But yes, that's a heck of a, card to have in your back pocket just in case something goes wrong. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald on the field together at some point. I hope we get to see it. I just hope it's, they don't have a bunch of injuries that causes other issues right now with the Rams. That's the problem.
That team to me, Joe, it just looks too good to be true. Matthew Stafford, the poor guy gets beat up like it's nobody's business. He's bound to get hurt. Whether it is, the Donald coming back, he's bound to get hurt. Devontae Adams last year, his numbers really weren't that good. In the red zone, tremendous. They threw the football all the time. That's why his touchdown total. But if you look at his receptions and his yardage last year, it scaled down quite a bit. I can't help but think that's going to scale down even more this year. Puka's got some issues off the field. Who knows what that's going to turn into? This club, to me, they are the overwhelming favorite. Maybe they should be the favorite, but I don't think they should be the overwhelming favorite. This team is set up for trouble this season. I'd stay away. I really would until they showed me 4 or 5 games that, okay, that they mean business. But otherwise, I think they're a little overrated. I really do.
Tough division. A lot
Yep.
of, 49ers, I don't think are going anywhere anytime soon. Seattle certainly is. I mean, Arizona is, well, thank goodness you got Arizona there. But listen, they addressed a lot of the holes they had last year in the offseason. Secondary will be better. That's all fine and dandy. But you still, having a quarterback pushing 40. That offensive line better stay healthy because it's only going to go as Stafford goes. Granted, you did draft the future quarterback, his replacement, but I don't know how much that kid's going to see the field either. So we got more game time decisions coming up here on the grid. Yep, crazy. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel here. And of course, a lot of news and notes coming out of the NFL as camps are well underway here. We got some battles all over the place. But one of the big stories this week here, Scotty, and can't wait to get your take on this because we went from 5 years ago. Yeah, drafting a running back in the first. Yeah, no, sorry, not gonna. You're a dime a dozen. Two, you get 22 million. You get 23 million a year. Now, the 3 signings that have happened here this week with the running back position between Bijan Robinson, Jamar Gibbs, and Jonathan Taylor. How do you think James Cook of the Buffalo Bills feels right about now when Buffalo signed him for what, $11.5 million, and he was, he had to almost hold out in order to be able to get that. But now he went from being pretty good, like top 8 or 9, but now he's like 13th or 14th in average salary. My goodness. But I guess running backs are a hot commodity again now, huh? Boy, that was quick.
Yeah, that was surprising, right? And by the way, Cook led the NFL in rushing last year. So how long before he says, you know what, I'm holding out too, right? So he should be a little bit higher on the pecking order. But it is amazing. Yeah, listen, it was only a matter of time that the Barkley thing really kind of opened the door to other teams saying, all right, we got all this extra salary cap space. The NFL, you're getting $10 to $20 million more every single year. And some of these teams are, kind of cut back a little bit on other positions, and the running back he's due, right? What are you going to do? Even now at 20 to 25 million compared to other positions, it really is not that much if you're, the best ones as these guys are. So, but I figure we were talking about this, on the podcast with Gibbs. It was a matter of time, whoever gave in, I don't think it was the Lions or even the Falcons that were saying no, 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 no. I think it was Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs that were saying, all right, whatever, whoever signs first, the other guy's going to get a couple of dollars more. Just because of ego and everything else. And that's exactly what happened. Robinson signs, and then a couple of days later, yesterday, Gibbs signs, and he got just a couple of dollars more just to kind of throw it in your face. All right, I won the battle. How about that? But yeah, they're making good money now. They are. Next up would be field goal kickers, I guess. That'll be the next position.
I guess, right? Because it's like head scratch. Like now, all of a sudden, now these guys are taking up a significant portion of the cap here. And listen, if you're Bijan, if you're Jimmy, I get Taylor. This is his second guaranteed contract, I believe, because I think he's older than both of them. At 20, I think he's 27 years old. So he's up there, but Jahmyr Gibbs only 24. And listen, Bijan, both guys, well worth it, but you better be very confident in some of the other spots, because I think Montgomery not being in Detroit this year, all of a sudden it's going to be coming a lot of wear and tear on a guy you're paying $24 million a year to from the running back position. And you and I both know defenses are going to be looking at what they did last year and be like, yeah, you're not going for 85 yards, man. Like that's not happening here, which means that's a lot more touches, a lot more wear and tear on him as well.
Yeah. And look at Saquon. 2 years ago, he rushes for 2,000 yards. Last year, barely got 1,000, believe it or not, 1,140, just over 1,000 yards, which, with 17 games really isn't that much per game. So, yeah, these guys are going to come back to the pack a little bit, but, I guess you have to pay them, Joe, but I don't know. I've said this about the owners, like Gibbs, right? So, there is Robinson getting $67 million for 3 years, right? I don't know why the Lions just didn't say, all right, there's the market. You're as good as him. He's as good as you. We're going to give you $67 million. Instead, they got to give him like $500,000 more and $500,000, almost $1 million more in incentives and $500,000 more in guaranteed money. Why? Well, why do that? Why would there's the guy. There's the best running back. We'll match it. There you go. But instead, they just ever so slowly give him more and more and more money. And it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, what's the guy going to do? Walk away? I mean, honestly, he's got a year left on his contract, Gibbs. The Lions could have said, play this year under your contract, and then you know what? We're going to franchise you next year. And the franchise for a running back is not $25 million. It's probably around $15 million. So now you got him under control for 2 more years, and hell, I'll franchise you again the year after. It's still not going to probably be $25 million. And by that time, you're going to be 27. I know the system sucks for certain players, but if I'm the owners, I'm the GM, what are you going to do? I'm going to give you $20 million. I'm not giving you 25. Too bad. I'll give you 15, 20 million. Go ahead and walk away from that. I dare you. These guys wouldn't. So,
nope.
Give them the money.
That's money spent. Okay, lock it up. But you better be able to protect your quarterback still, number one. And you better work on that offensive line, because that's going to be a key to a lot of what's going to happen here for them. But all 3 of those guys that did get the money, and you're right. I feel terrible for Cook, but I guarantee you in 4 months from now, you and I are going to have this conversation about Cook being like, are you out of your mind? Like, I am not playing for $9 million when these guys, and I'm leading the league in rushing, and he's likely going to have more touches and everything else. But all of those guys, you can't just be a running back. You better be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. And all those guys, they're damn good receivers too as well. I don't think the running backs are all made the same, but the guys that are getting paid now have that in common.
Yeah. There were 17 guys last year that ran for 1,000 yards. Throw in 3 more that ran for 900 and change. 4 more that ran for 900 and change. That's 21 running backs That's a lot of running backs. So are they really that much better? If you took a guy that had 500 yards for the New York Giants, we'll say, and put him behind Buffalo Bills offensive line, would he not get to, close to 1,600 that James Cook had last year? That's what you have to figure out, that's why you give the money. But history says no, yes, they would. History says, they would get, close to that. So, but
yeah, well,
they got the space.
How much is Christian McCaffrey worth then? That's what I want to know. Right. What is that? What is his deal going to be worth at some particular point? So, yeah, it's an evolving market for sure in the NFL. But boy, oh boy, running backs, especially the ones that can catch passes. Yeah, it's the Derrick Henrys of the world. Those days are likely gone. No, Scotty, can't just be a power runner. You got to bring something else to the table here.
I'll tell you what.
That's it, right?
I tell you, I can't believe I'm going to say this about the Dolphins because, how many smart things have they done over the last several years? But getting Achane, right? They got him not necessarily on the cheap, mind you, but, good for them to sign him first and let all these other clowns sign for a lot more, where Achane, he can get the ball out of the backfield. He does it all like you're talking about. He's tremendous.
Yeah, very good, too. And that's the new generation of running back. Now, how long are they all going to be making this kind of money? That remains to be seen. But I do think teams will start, certainly in the draft, that if you have that kind of ability, there'll be first-round picks coming out. I don't think there were a ton this year, right, Scotty? Running backs this year?
Bring it up. I'm watching the last night's game, Joe. And listen, I'm a Notre Dame guy. I watched all the game. I love it. But the Arizona Cardinals, with all the holes they have, using the third pick overall, fourth pick, whatever it was, on Jeremiah Love, when they got Algier, they signed. They got James Conner, Benson. Kid last night looked terrific. He looked great last night. So it's like, what are you wasting a first-round pick on Love for? As good as he is, you don't need him with all the holes you have on that team. So, but, get more and more guys being drafted high, in the draft.
It's crazy when you think about it. Crazy, that's right. Number 3 overall, of course, we didn't see him last night. Who knows when we'll see him in there. But, again, you don't have an offensive line, so, what was Genty, right? That was the year prior. How'd that work out?
Exactly.
No offensive line. No running back. Doesn't make a difference how good they are. It's not going to matter. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
it's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. We've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel as we are T-minus about less than 60 minutes away here from the start of a good 15-game slate in Major League Baseball. We'll go over all the games for you. We also continue to get some headlines and news and notes out of training camps around the NFL. You got your first taste of the NFL last night. Actually, a pretty entertaining game for the Hall of Fame there. High scoring shootout. Nobody expected to see that happening. But we're also getting some word on some other, I think, are going to be extremely interesting teams to watch this year. You know, we got 10 new head coaches, right, Scotty, this year. 10 guys that are going to be on the sidelines of different teams. No was more dysfunctional than the Raiders last year outside of the Jets, but don't get me started there. But the Raiders, draft pick, number 1, future quarterback. We'll see, because the guy that is number 1 on the depth chart is a guy named Kirk Cousins. They were also trying to trade Max Crosby a year ago, if you remember. How did that work out with Baltimore? Yikes, that didn't work out all that well. And now we're hearing today that those two guys apparently going at one another in training camp. That's either a great sign or it is going to be the sign of an absolute dumpster fire here. And the truth is going to lie somewhere in the middle, but Kirk Cousins and Matt Crosby going at one another at camp is likely not a very good story.
Yeah, what are they doing, Joe? You know, Max Crosby is like the Mike Trout of the NFL, right? Where Trout just refuses to get traded, even though the Angels just absolutely suck. You know, 11 straight years of a losing record, right? But he wants to stay. He wants to stay. Same thing with Crosby. You said he relented a little bit. Okay, I'll go to Baltimore. That imploded. But you know, I read the story about this fight there. He hit Cousins twice for some dopey reason. I don't know what. You know, then they get into this little thing, and then afterwards he's like, well, you know, I'm on the practice field and I can't turn it off and cut it. That's who I am. Well, what are you, an idiot? It's your quarterback, you dope. It's not some other quarterback. If you're not that smart, if you're that dumb that you can't shut it down with your own quarterback, what are we talking here, Max, right? I mean, just idiotic. And then on the other side of the coin, I don't know if you saw this story yesterday. There's Dopey Jackson Dart with the New York Giants. You know, he scores a touchdown on a scramble play, another thing that, you know, we don't want to see as a Giant fan. And then what does he do? This dope throws the football at the defender who is closest to him, clonking him in the head, starting a brawl with the Giants. We got two quarterbacks here in brawls. And then John Harbaugh afterwards was asked about, like, you know, are you going to talk to, you know, Jackson Dart? Like, hey, you can't do stuff like that. Oh, he knows. He won't do that in the game. It's like, no, John, he doesn't know. I know you weren't here last year. He doesn't know. He doesn't know when to slide. He doesn't know when to get out of bounds. He doesn't know when to throw the ball away. That's why he was hurt all last year. He doesn't know to do smart things. Yeah. So, crazy.
I agree. Hence, which shouldn't surprise us, with Andy Reid came out earlier today and said, yeah, likely Patrick Mahomes not going to see any preseason action. You think? But the fact that he's even going to be ready for week 1, which apparently is all systems go here, what, he got hurt in December? God, he blew the knee out, and he's going to be ready for game 1. That's pretty impressive stuff right there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I was hesitant on betting some props and looking into all that stuff now, right? And what are you going to do with KC? And you know, their schedule to start the season is not exactly easy with Denver. You know, rematch or not really rematch, but Denver, Indianapolis, both at home, I guess. And then it eases up. You know, if you could survive that with the backups, right? Maybe you go 1-1, then you got the Dolphins and Raiders, and then you got a bye. So, you know, if I told you, like, you know, where do you think, if the guy's like semi-injured, you look at the KC schedule, you know, you want to be able to buy him a couple of more weeks. I mean, it streams out week 6, you know, after 4 games with that bye against the Chargers. That's when I would bring him back, because you should go with Denver, Indianapolis at home, Miami, and Las Vegas. Who's their backup quarterback? Justin Fields. what, you should still go 3-1, right? You would think.
I agree.
And then
I
like I said,
agree.
you get the bye, and then you let them play week 6. That's how you really should do it.
I agree. And word is at camp, like he's not taking it easy. He's doing rollout lefts. He's going through all of the drills, all of the taking all the snaps under center. Has even scrambled apparently, where Andy Reid like almost fainted and passed out sometimes. So apparently he's got a brace around the left knee. And, he's a guy that he's always played in the preseason, if you remember, Scotty. Like Mahomes has always been a guy that's like, I believe in the reps. I believe we get what we put in. He's a guy that's always wanted to play in there. I think at this time of year, though, you're right. And I would be okay with them saying, you want to take the first month, like whatever happens in September is having no consequence on what's going to happen in November. I'm kind of with you here. The more reps you can get, Fields and others, I think the better it is before you roll, Mahomes out there.
And I'll say this, Joe, I'm pretty sure, I'll double check. I think week 5 is the first bye week. Is it? If it's not 5, it's week 5, right? We all have this conspiracy about the NFL doing everything in their power to help Kansas City, right? You can't tell me the NFL didn't say, all right, you know what, Kansas City? We'll give you Miami, maybe the worst team in the NFL. We'll give you the Raiders, maybe the second worst team in the NFL. They do play the Jets. They could have put the Jets in there, but we got to have a good opening round matchup for you. But then we'll give you Indianapolis at home. I mean, they gave them like 3 cupcakes and then the first bye opportunity. I can't help but think, saying what we just said, we'll give you an extra month to get Mahomes ready. You survive. You go 2-2, even 2-2, which I think at worst they would go, is not a bad schedule they got from the NFL. You want to call it coincidence? Conspiracy like myself will say
with
no.
You.
Yeah, they bent over backwards.
I mean, listen, you got Nussmeier too, I think, out of LSU as the other quarterback, right? So 7th round pick. So, and don't forget the Kansas City Chiefs actual OC. I don't even think he's with the team right now here because he's dealing with his wife being shot. Just an awful situation there. So, listen, no rush, Mahomes. Just come back. It doesn't have to be right away. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we get ready to wrap up this first hour together. It's good to have the NFL back in our lives here. Kicked off yesterday with the Hall of Fame game. Cardinals and Carson Beck showing up and showing out. Haynes King, former Georgia Tech quarterback for 9,000 years, getting it done for the Carolina Panthers last night. Thursday will be another round of preseason. I guess that's what preseason week 1, I guess, is what they'll consider that now. So the Hall of Fame game is like week 0 of college football, which also, by the way, 3 weeks and counting, folks, before college football is in our lives. I want to get to, by the way, one game has been pushed back here. It looks like a Major League Baseball for weather. And that's going to be the Washington and the Reds now 8:30 from 6:40 to 8:30. It is raining, apparently a bit of a rain delay there. And we're going to cover all the full slate for you coming up next hour. But I want to get your thoughts here, Scott, because I am also fascinated. One of the new head coaches on a sideline for a team this year. And we just got to watch the former coach actually in the booth last night there with Mike Tomlin. Mike McCarthy now on the sidelines there of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Call me crazy. Aaron Rodgers, with knowing this is it, knowing he can take shots at everyone on the way out the door, I think it's going to be must-watch television here this year. I just can't figure out if what we're going to get from McCarthy that we didn't get from Tomlin. I mean, nobody did more with less than Tomlin did. I mean, is he going to win all of those one-score games, McCarthy, like Tomlin did? Like, I don't know what we're going to get, but I know this. It's going to be entertaining as all hell to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you know why? Because you're right. With Rodgers knowing this is probably it, he showed up a lot of players last year when things weren't going well, and for the most part, they did go well. He was still yelling and screaming on the field. Remember the one play he wouldn't come off the field when they wanted to kick the field goal? I forget which game that was. Then the next drive, they decided to go for it, and he wanted to come off the field. I mean, the dude's got to be 43. God bless him if I was still playing and everything. He's got to be 43, Joe. In December. I think this has got awfulness, whatever, however you want to say it, written all over it. I really do. You're right.
Agree.
I'm a Tomlin guy. I know they didn't win in the postseason, but I think that was just a classic case of he took a mediocre team to playoff level. He didn't take a playoff team and keep them just a playoff team. Like he got the most out of that team. They weren't favorites in any of those games that they were losing in the postseason over the last 10 years anyway. So I think that your Steeler fans are going to find that out. They kind of pushed him out a little bit. I think they're going to, question that after this season. I think this has got disaster written all over it. Really do.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun to watch it all crumble, or, I mean, who knows? We'll see if McCarthy can get the best out of Aaron Rodgers and that offense, because they're going to need to do.
Right, he couldn't win with a young Troy Aikman down in Dallas with all the weapons. How's he going to win with an old Aaron Rodgers, realistically? I don't see it.
And a very old defense, too. That's the other problem with listen, for Tomlin to leave to go and sit with that crew last night on television, and he was done. Like, he had it up there. He's like, I'm not coming back to this disaster. We can't get a quarterback. We're paying more money for an aging defense than any other team. Like, all of this is going to end in flames. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, going, yeah, I'm good. My time is up here. I'll see you in like a year or two. I'll come back and I'll pick the team that I want to be with. But yeah, right now I am good to go with that. Also, by the way, they're putting a microphone in Stephon Diggs' face a lot here. He's got a new team with the Commanders. I'm kind of shocked that him and Debo opened up camp without being on teams. And we know the injury to the 49ers. Debo goes back home. That's an easy fit. Diggs with the Commanders, I think, is very interesting. Terry McLaurin is going to be the number 1. Diggs is now your number 2. I don't know. I mean, Daniels took a big step back last year. You want to talk about hot seat? Is Dan Quinn on the hot seat here, Scotty?
Yeah, I think so. This is a strange a team, right? Are you going to get this Washington team from 2 years ago that surprised everybody? Or are you going to get the Washington team, albeit with Daniels being hurt, but that let
Yep.
everybody down, right? You wonder about Diggs, too. He had 85 receptions for 1,000 yards, not that many touchdowns. But he was pretty productive. And I know he had a balloon payment, that they set up the contract where there's no way he was going to be on the team. But that didn't stop the Patriots from ripping that up. Diggs for ripping that up and saying, all right, we'll just give you a new deal. But we want you. You were productive last year. So I'm a little surprised, especially with New England's passing game, that they let him go.
Yeah. Well, he's needed with the Commanders. We'll see if it all pays off, though. We got another hour of game time decisions straight ahead here on the grid. All right, welcome back. In a very happy Friday to you. It's Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel as we are getting ready for a full 15-game slate here in Major League Baseball tonight. We got some NFL news and notes. Hard to believe, but yep. As we're sitting here on this August the 7th, football is back. The NFL, let the fun begin here. Also, we've got some very interesting games coming up here tonight, Scotty, and none bigger than, I think, what we're going to see in the Bronx with the Yankees taking on Atlanta. That's going to be just after the top of next hour. We got two games getting ready to start this hour. The Mets in Pittsburgh, see if they can continue their winning ways. And then Toronto's in Philadelphia. 6:40 start for both of those games. Cincinnati and Washington has been pushed back to 8:30 because of the rain in the area. But Atlanta finally gets Acuna Jr. back, and I think he goes 0 for his first, 16 off the IL. Then all of a sudden, he flips a switch against the Marlins last series. They sweep the Marlins. Now they're heading into New York. They kind of have been that forgotten team. They didn't do an awful lot at the trade deadline, although they did try, apparently, to get Jacob deGrom. And it was deGrom's like, yeah, I don't want to leave Texas. I'm good here. So, but listen, they are what they are. We forget how good they were early in the season. They got 70 wins. They still could get home field advantage throughout. They could still have the best record in Major League Baseball when it's all said and done, certainly in the National League. So What do we make of Atlanta tonight, taking on the Yankees and their former pitcher, Max Fried?
Yeah, and then one of those guys where he's making his new team debut, Tyler Mahle, who, for the most part at San Francisco was awful. He did pitch a little bit better. Final 7 starts, 2-2, 3.79. But overall, he's 3-9 with an ERA over 5. I mean, it shows you how desperate the Braves are for starting pitchers. Boy, I tell you what, they would have gotten DeGrom, you pencil him in there, behind Sale, and that's a 1-2, solid punch, that would have put him, back in the game, if you will. So, but they ended the first half of the season slumping, now they've won 8 straight. They've outscored their opponents 43-17, so it's not just, 4-3 games. They're beating the snot out of teams, including a sweep of Miami. Their starting pitchers have been the story. Now, again, throw Mahle out of the equation, but last 15 games, Joe, starting pitchers 2.17 ERA. So they're getting the job done. Fried, though, is facing his former team for the first time. I don't think he left here in bad terms, as a free agent, signing with the Stanks a couple of years ago. But I don't mind, putting money on a guy that is facing his team for the first time. So Yanks can't hit their way out of a paper bag. Surprisingly enough, they're awful at home, too. 5-12 their last 17 home games. But, give me Fried, this is his 4th start since coming off the DL. They've thrown a few more pitches with him, 57, 66, and now 78 his last start. So he probably can go 80 plus, and get a max effort, good solid 6-7 innings. So I'll take the Yankees minus the 135 or so.
It's crazy. They opened up minus 150 last night, Scotty, and we're seeing nearly a 30-cent move against them. And by the way, it's not just Washington, Cincinnati. I don't know what kind of weather you got rolling through your area there, Scott, but now the Yankees have been pushed to an 8:05 start, as has Philadelphia and Toronto, also 8:05. That's pushed back an hour, and now it looks like Boston and Toronto also being pushed back here. That looks like 7:10. We're going to get Boston now. They're pushing back a little bit there against the Athletics. So it must be some sort of weather up in the eastern part here that's pushing all of this back at least 1 hour.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, I'm on Long Island, and while it's not perfect, it's not raining. I'll tell you that. It's kind of weird that they're pushing these games back like a half hour or so, not like an hour and a half. Where the storm's going to come and it's going to be here a while, but we don't want to call the game. What is a half hour going to do if the rain hasn't started yet? I would think you can't really move it up, but I would think you'd want to try and get a couple of innings in, but then that screws up the starting pitchers. So maybe they just say, okay, let this thing blow through. It's not going to really be that bad. But I would double check, before you put your money down. Some of these sites allow you to say if so-and-so is starting. That might not be the worst thing in the world to do because, some of these that maybe aren't being pushed back, or even if they are, maybe there's more rain that they don't know. Like I got lucky last week. Again, Wheeler, as a matter of fact, pitching tonight.
Yes.
Had him laying a run and a half against I think it was Miami. Game goes 2 innings, rain delay. He's pulled, and I'm like, oh fudge. But the next guy came in, they ended up winning like 7-3. But not the worst in laying, big money on a pitcher, and then you find out he's not pitching anymore because of a rain delay.
No, it wasn't actually Miami. He got lit up in that game there. That was Tuesday. It was Baltimore. That game
Baltimore.
was it was Baltimore. I remember because I had him in Miami, and Miami lit him up during a 12-game. Remember that? And neither team could win anything, and Wheeler goes down there and gets crushed. But it did work out against Baltimore. And you're right, because some of these now we're looking at 6. Nothing is starting this hour, Scotty. Everything has been pushed back across the board. So, we got all of these games that were supposed to start at 6:40 now pushed back to 7:40 or at least 8:30 now. So keep an eye because you got to wonder. Creatures of habit, right? Guys have been on a routine getting ready to start at 6:40. Cavalli's now not going to start their thing until 8:30, maybe later. So what are you doing in those 2 hours there, Scott, now? Twirling your thumbs, trying to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, it's like betting afternoon baseball, Joe. You know, these guys are all, that's why these teams have these splits, man. They're all used to playing at night. You know, you wouldn't think, what's the difference, Scott? It makes a different timing and get to the ballpark, same time. Yeah, when that all changes, it just makes the dogs today that much more alive. You know, just be careful with that. So,
yeah. Know exactly what you got coming your way here. So the Boston one is interesting as well because Boston at home, Tolley on the mound. I'm shocked that this didn't get the $3 yet, but it's certainly on its way. Boston hasn't lost a game, it feels like, in a month, but they did play till the wee hours of the morning last night. 13 ridiculous innings where the White Sox just could not put them away. They come back, they end up winning it. Now they welcome in the Athletics, who very much, Craig and I have talked all week. Craig believes when it's all said and done, the Athletics are going to have the worst record in Major League Baseball, and it is very hard to argue with that there, Scotty.
Yeah. You talk about a game that you say, Joe, how is this not going to happen, right? And this is it for me. How is Boston not winning? You have the hottest team in baseball against the coldest team in baseball, and the hottest team is at home. And the hottest team has a decent pitcher on the hill. The other team has a 2-7 Jack Perkins on the hill. I mean, the Red Sox, I watched the game last night, 31-5 their last 36 games, 16-4 last 20 at Fenway Park, 17-3 since the All-Star break. They've won 8 in a row overall. I mean, it just goes on and on and on with this team. It's just unbelievable. It really is the turnaround. The A's, on the other hand, 7-32 their last 39 games, 4-15 since the All-Star break, including 8 straight losses. Tolley's a lefty. So what? The A's are 16 games under 500 against lefties, only 9 against righties. I mean, they suck against everybody, but they're especially bad against lefties. I mean, there's just nothing that says A's tonight or in this series, but you watch them win one of these games.
Yeah, listen, 8.5 is the total here. I just don't know how the Athletics are getting on the board. Perkins and Tolley, they faced one another last time, I believe, at Sacramento, and both guys did a really good job of limiting both lineups. So no reason to think that we're going to get some sort of crazy 13-12 game again tonight. Feels like fewer runs, not more. We got more Major League Baseball to cover as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
It's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. You know, we've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel here, getting ready for a 15-game slate here in Major League Baseball tonight. By the way, that Phillies and Blue Jays game also been pushed back. It was supposed to start at 6:40 here tonight, and that one has been pushed back at least an hour. I'm seeing double-digit winds blowing straight out, temps in the around 90 degrees here, Scott, by the time they get it going. And both bullpens, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, both Doran and, was it Louis Varlin, those are back-to-back days that those guys have pitched. So both bullpens are a little bit suspect. Soriano and Wheeler ain't going to go 9 innings and throw, maybe an over at 7.5 might not be a bad look here with those kinds of, that kind of wind, those temperatures, and neither closer is going to be available to him.
Yeah. Chapman, by the way, probably same thing, by the way, the Red Sox game. Chapman's pitched back-to-back games, so he might not be available tonight as well, laying that minus 260. So, yeah,
I wouldn't.
Yeah, right. That definitely not. That's a lay in a run and a half, if anything, right? And just deal with it if they end up winning by 1 run. So yeah, maybe the over. Who knows? One of these guys might get scratched too. It might just say, well, if it gets delayed again, it's like, you know what, Zach, just shut it down. We're okay with it. We'll start you tomorrow and have someone else pitch instead, rather than risk you getting up and down, or maybe the game going 2 innings and being delayed again. So over might not be the worst play in the world. That little hunch play, especially if the winds are blowing out.
Yep, you're going to get that. It looks like maybe some lightning and those types of things happening here across the board with these games that were going to start earlier, but now they're going to be pushed back. The only game, Scotty, that's getting ready that still has not been pushed back is Pittsburgh at the Mets, because it never rains in Pittsburgh. Of course not. Pittsburgh and the Mets looked like that first pitch coming up in about 15 minutes. But let's go later because one game here I've been looking at all day and I can't seem to figure out. Are my eyes kidding me, or is Tampa Bay a underdog at plus money in Seattle tonight? Seattle, who just got shut out 2 out of 3 by Detroit, who can't hit water if they fell out of a boat, and Tampa with the best record in America. What am I missing here, Scott? Oh yeah, by the way, what was it? Rasmussen going tonight? What am I missing here?
Yeah, one of their better pitchers. It's amazing. I think the boys in Vegas haven't jumped off, but Seattle certainly has. They got maybe one of the most I don't want to say overrated, because some of these guys are halfway decent, but just overrated, I guess is the word, whether it's Logan Gilbert or Brian Wu or Luis Castillo, who they did finally trade away. You got Logan Gilbert tonight. He's pretty good, but his ERA is 3.5. It's nothing crazy. They're lousy against winning teams. The boys in Vegas, just continue to buy into this Seattle team that eventually they're going to turn things around. I get it, but they just haven't. Eventually you just got to jump off the bandwagon, Joe, and just say it's not happening. It's just, for whatever reason, it's not happening. They're stuck in Mediocresville. They're 4 games under 500. They can't get over the hump. Houston's turned it on. Other Red Sox have obviously turned it on. This Seattle team just doesn't. And then you throw in Tampa Bay. Listen, they could win 120 games, and the boys in Vegas just won't respect them. They just won't. And it really is. It's amazing. Being a Red Sox fan, I follow it, and as I know you do too. But last night, the Red Sox were minus 180 or so. That was the first time, Joe, that I remember the Red Sox in this great run being more than like a 150 or 160 favorite. Everything has been 120, 140, maybe 150, 135. You've been getting great numbers for some stupid reason. I don't know. But they finally bought in last night, and they never seem to buy in with Tampa Bay. Just never. So, you're right. Give me Tampa Bay, who has pretty good splits. The day-night thing, I look at that stuff. They're basically 500 during the day, in 49 games. At night, 43-22, 21 games over 500 at night for Tampa Bay. So that's where they make their money. Give me Tampa Bay with this one.
And Tampa had off yesterday, so they're actually more rested. They had to fly out. They got to get settled in. Now they're taking. Seattle got lit up 11-0 yesterday. They can't hit at all. You're talking about a Tampa team against righties now over the last 2 weeks, fourth best in Major League Baseball. And Logan Gilbert is the total opposite of what you think he is. He gets lit up at home and pitches better on the road, Scott, which I'm still trying to figure out because he gives up home runs all at home. That ballpark is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks, but not for him. And they're still a favorite. I just don't on both bullpens are going to be rested, right? 11-0. I don't see why Seattle won't have access to to their bullpen either. If all things being equal, compare the Tampa Bay lineup to the Seattle lineup. What am I missing here, Scott? Like I can't figure it out.
He's got an ERA over 4
or they're setting us
home.
up.
Yeah, he's got an ERA over 4 at home. It makes no sense.
I don't get it.
But here's Logan Gilbert, right? You think Logan Gilbert, pretty good pitcher. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's 8-6, no big deal. He was 6-6 last year, 9-12 the year before that. 13-7 the year before that, but his ERA has been over 3 all these years. I mean, he's just a nice little pitcher, but for some reason he's gotten this reputation of being this big-time stud, and he's just not. Not bad, but and those home numbers are just ridiculously stupid. It makes no sense. So, yeah, I don't know what Tampa Bay would have to do. At least, and Tampa Bay's got some notable guys now. The guys are starting to get a little bit more familiar with Tampa Bay, but like I said, with Boston, same thing. This is why baseball, sometimes it's difficult, but other times in baseball is the easiest. You get these teams that are in these streaks, and if they're a team that's not supposed to be good, man, they'll keep those lines down like they are with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's getting odds. Yeah, I'll take that. First place team, best record in the American League.
T-Mobile Park, one of the most pitcher-friendly parks, suppresses runs left and right. Logan Gilbert has thrown 78 2/3 innings at home. He's given up 16 home runs in those 78 2/3 at that ballpark. You know how many he's given up on the road in 54 innings? One. Wow. He's given all his home runs up at home. I don't get it. I'll take the Rays at plus. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'll take the Rays all day long there. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
It's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. We've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel as we're getting you ready here for a full slate of Major League Baseball action here tonight. We got 15 games, in fact, scheduled. Only one getting ready to start here in just a couple of minutes. That's going to be the Mets at Pittsburgh. The rest of the 6:40 games have all been pushed back an hour because of some weather concerns here. But we talked about Boston last night. They're coming up just after the top of the hour against the Athletics. You know, great winning streak. But the team that they played into the wee hours of those extra innings was the White Sox, who then had to leave Boston last night after getting swept, which is just laughable given the fact that they had a lead in every inning, including the extra innings, and just could not hold on to it. But now they got to fly to take on Cleveland. They didn't land till about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now they got to take on the Guardians at Progressive. Pretty good lefty there, and Parker Messick. Schultz is a gas can any which way you look at it here for the White Sox. And if you're the White Sox, you emptied that bullpen last. I mean, you have 9 guys? So Noah Schultz is going to have to go. I'm shocked if they don't put a starter like an opener just to try to give him a little time to get some extra innings, because that bullpen is worked from that series against the Red Sox. I can't trust the Guardians' offense. That's my problem here, Scott.
Yeah. What the over-under is what? I'm guessing eight and a half or so. Yeah, you know, I forgot about that angle as far as the White Sox watching that game, lead after lead, reliever after reliever.
7.5. I'm sorry, 7.5.
7.5. Oh, okay, it's even worse. But you're right. You got a guy whose ERA starting is close to 6, and Noah Schultz.
Yeah.
So you can't go under. Parker Messick's been terrific. I think you said it earlier. Maybe White Sox team total under and not worry about the Guardians, beating up on Schultz. And Schultz, really more importantly, just I could see the White Sox saying, listen, dude, you got to take one for the team. I know you're pitching well, but all the guys pitched yesterday. We're all tired. You're going to have to go 6 innings regardless. I don't care if it's 7-0. You're going to stay in there. So that would be the problem. How about the Guards? 8-0 under in Messick's last road game starts. 10-2 under in his last 12 starts against winning teams as well. Although the White Sox are the number 1 over team in all of baseball. 63, 48-2, 15 more overs than unders. So you got a little, battle here. Cleveland coming off being swept. I can't believe that, but they are against the Mets. And they're 2 games under 500. That's the worst they've been all year. Tied with Minnesota, half game behind Texas for the final spot. The under is tempting, but that bullpen angle, I think I would lay the just minus 140 with Parker Messick. He's allowed like 3 runs or less in like almost every single start this year. I think it's like 2 or 3, but other than that, it's 3 runs or less. He's a good pitcher. ERA 2.57.
Very good.
Yeah. So give me Guards.
And White Sox are a very left-handed heavy lineup too. Normally, so lefty on lefty, I think Messick's got the advantage. Is this a good spot for a nerfy here, Scott? You think?
From Cleveland from the White Sox scoring, yes. Cleveland scoring, they can't score with a $20 bill at a cheap Waffle House, right? So
that's what I'm saying, right?
That might not be bad, The kid will get.
My goodness, here I think especially you got the White Sox who landed at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're just going to go out there and go through Schultz as long as he doesn't give up anything crazy. But again, what on this lineup here of the Guardians scares you? They can't hit anybody here. So give me no runs, or give me the first. Give me maybe
the nerfy
couple of times through. You give maybe a first 5 here with Cleveland if we can trust them. Because I believe Parker Messick's the better arm here. I think he's going to control the White Sox lineup, who hasn't been great to begin with. I think there's going to be an opportunity here to back. listen, the Cleveland bullpen has been blowing lead after lead during. They've lost 8 of their last 11. They've been terrible too, though. Scott, Cade Smith ain't closing anybody out.
They get swept by the Mets at home. So you're right. I mean, Cleveland's got the 4th lowest batting average in baseball, behind only the Stankies, believe it or not, Seattle and Cincinnati. Cincinnati with the worst is really just like, wow, mind-boggling.
I don't get it.
230, hitting in that ballpark. Yep. How can they have the worst batting average? Wow, that's amazing. But
and traded everyone away to try to build up that lineup, give themselves some. Nope, has not happened at all for the Guardians. But you know who else can't win a game? The Dodgers. They got one in Arizona who's winning games here. So we got a lot to break down. 6-game losing streak with the Dodgers. Does Arizona make it 7? We'll break it down for you as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
it's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. You know, we've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Here we go. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel as we are looking to get you all set up here for a big 15-game slate, Major League Baseball. We talked about it, Scotty. Let's break it down here. The Dodgers, 6-game losing streak. They got swept by the Red Sox at home. They figured, all right, we'll go away. We'll take on the Cubs. Nope, got swept by the Cubs. And now they're on the road against Arizona, who, for whatever reason, Scott, always plays their best baseball August, September, heading into the end of the season. And they're a good team, too, Arizona. So I don't know. I mean, do we trust Suzuki has figured it out in order to bail him out here? Or which version of him shows up here tonight? And Merrill Kelly was atrocious, and then he figured it out in July. So I don't know who to like in this one.
Yeah, it's weird, right? We'll start with the Dodgers. You said 6 straight losses, 2-8 their last 10, and 8-13 their last 21. So this is not just a little recent 1 week, no big deal. This has lasted almost a month now. 8-13 their last 21, right? Arizona 12-7 since the All-Star break, including 6-2 their last 8. Not bad. Suzuki, as you mentioned, on the hill. You feast or famine with him. Kelly, you're right. It was awful. He was awful first half of the year. He had 5 starts in July that were actually pretty darn good, but then he got lit up last start against who? Cleveland, the team we just made fun of that couldn't hit their way out of a paper bag, right? They scored 5 runs off him in like 5 innings of work. So which team are you going to get? And I tell you, Joe, the thinking a lot of this is the Dodgers, they get everything all wrapped up, no big deal, get to the postseason, right? Well, the Dodgers don't have the best record in Major League Baseball. They don't even have the second best record in the National League. They're behind both Milwaukee and Atlanta. They're going to win the division, don't get me wrong, but you're looking at an opening round best-of-3 playoff series against maybe Sanchez and Wheeler in Philadelphia, maybe the Brewers, maybe the Cubs, maybe Atlanta. You don't want to face, well, it wouldn't be Atlanta. You don't want to face these teams, in a best-of-3. You don't want to face Topeka High in a best-of-3. You want to get the best record. So they got 40 games or so to figure this thing out, but it's not looking good. Are they really going to lose 7 in a row, you say, right? I don't think they do. I think they do win tonight. I like the over in the game. I think they put it together. And just it's a pretty good hitter's ballpark in Arizona. Been there a couple of times. So I'll go with the Dodgers. I think they do turn it around. But they're not playing well, obviously.
No, and listen, we don't want to catch a falling knife, right? And it's like, yikes, Dodgers, what are we doing? But I do think they had off yesterday, right? Arizona had the game against the Padres last night at home, though, so they didn't have any travel involved. I don't know, is getting the 1.5 here crazy to think that this is probably going to be closer if the Dodgers do win? I don't know that it's going to be. Suzuki go out there, strike out 8 and walk 10. And that's the problem with him, too. And, and he's on the road. So, yeah, if I get a 1.5 start here, until I see them put together a bunch of wins here, it's going to be hard. But I'll tell you this, Merrill Kelly, 17 starts against the Dodgers, 0-11 with a 5.56 ERA there, Scott. So, 16 home runs in 89 innings. The Dodgers are not good to Merrill Kelly. So unless something crazy happens, the Dodgers should be able to win. So maybe, Scott, instead of laying $1.60, $1.70, maybe we lay the 1.5 with the Dodgers, and we'll at least we know we're going to get 9 at bats, right?
Yeah, getting to 9 at bats. You got a pitcher. I will say they got the 3rd worst record laying a 1.5 in baseball, 4-9 and 66.
I know, and which is also crazy.
Yeah, I mean, with that lineup, how is that possible, right? I mean, geez. But that's the only way to play it. With those numbers for Kelly, that's the only way. That's really the only way.
Yep.
So I'm not going to lay $1.70 with the Dodgers. Can't do that.
No, I will say this, though. Another new shiny toy out on the mound here tonight for the Padres. Robbie Ray, who was quietly having unbelievable success with the Giants. I mean, unreal. I mean, practically forget about scoring on him, man. Just a great job, not to mention never got any run support because the Giants can't hit. So now he's with the Padres, a team that he just blew out last time out pitching against them. But he's got the Astros coming to Petco, notorious for suppressing runs in this ballpark. Blanco is going for the Astros. He's gotten lit up like a Christmas tree since coming off the IL. So does Robbie Ray just continue his dominant ways here against this Astros lineup?
Yeah, I like to listen. The Astros are playing great. Both teams are really playing well, especially Houston, right? 12-3 their last 15. Hard to bet against that, right? But you have to, because you said Blanco's been awful. He's had 3 starts. Each one as bad as the next. He's not turning good pitcher, decent pitcher anyway, but he has not shown anything. And the Padres are actually scoring runs. They're averaging close to 6 runs a game. Since the All-Star break, they're 10-6. They're playing a little bit better. 7-1 last 8 at home. And a quirky little thing, but the numbers do jump out at you. Houston off yesterday. They're 7-18 after a day off, which makes no sense. But 7-18 is like, wow, okay. And you got Robbie Ray making, like you said, his debut for San Diego. So you're getting the Padres basically a pick 'em. They're playing well. Maybe the best ball all season. I'll take them against Blanco in Houston.
Yeah, Blanco is not good. I mean, both bullpens, the Astros bullpen, much better now that it's healthy. And they are very much alive for that American League West crown there at 2 games over 500. Yeah, but I'm kind of with you here. I like them in the first 5. I'll take the Padres to have the lead because whoever has the lead after 5, Scotty, I think both bullpens are more than capable of holding it down there, which is why I think the Padres need to score early in this one to get it done there. And don't forget, Robbie Ray was in, Toronto? He was in the American League and faced Houston a few times, right? Was it Toronto he was with forever? I think he won the Cy Young there. So, he's got some Altuve experience and Yordan Alvarez and so on and so forth. But, Petco notorious for keeping the scoring low there. But I think the Padres get it done in the first 5. But it begs the question, somebody's got to win the American League West. At some particular point, somebody's got to figure out. Is it going to be Texas? I don't know. We've got that game coming up that we're going to talk about because, you would think that, it should be Houston. Nobody expected Houston at this point, Scotty, to even be in contention for that division, right? Did you expect Houston to have a good enough year to actually win the American League West?
I had Texas winning that division. I thought they would be there. I didn't think they would necessarily win. Didn't like Oakland or the A's. Didn't like the Angels. But I figured it would be, I think most people just figured Seattle? Would get away with it, right? That would be the one. But Astros played well, 12-6 since the All-Star break. Like I said, 12-3 last 15. They turned it around. They got some hitting, got a little healthier. They've been banged up with injuries. But, it's the moment you could play 500 baseball and eventually turn it on, which is, I guess, why people still think Seattle might end up winning that division. But Astros, playing well enough. And it doesn't take much to win that division, like you said, or the Central for that matter.
And it's so funny, Scotty, because the Astros have a guy that is likely going to win the Triple Crown, and nobody's talking about it. Yordan Alvarez is your American League MVP. It's not. Most people don't even. I haven't heard anybody talk about the guys leading in batting average, home runs, and RBIs, and people pretending like the Astros are like, no, they're not. And the last Triple Crown that we got winner, was it Cabrera? Was the last one, or was there somebody else that did it? Yeah. It was Miguel Cabrera, right? And with the Tigers. And was he a DH then? He might have been as well. Could you imagine if Ohtani and Yordan Alvarez, 2 DHs, win the MVPs in the National League, American League? See if that's ever happened before. Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
it's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now in the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. You know, we've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel, and we're laughing here as the Astros very much in contention here to win that American League West, and a lot of it has to do with Yordan Alvarez, who is very much, Scotty, you looked at it, in contention. Was he almost 330? He's hitting 35 home runs, 85 RBIs. Miguel Cabrera did win the Triple Crown in 2012 with the Tigers. I believe he was a third baseman then. I don't think he switched to the DH spot at that point. But, I mean, Yordan Alvarez is having the season of all seasons right now. It seems fitting that the Astros should make a run at this. But then you got the National League MVP, who Ohtani is a slight favorite over Pete Crow Armstrong. But you can't have two MVPs that are DHs. Pete Crow Armstrong plays the field. He's a great defender, great center fielder. His numbers almost match Ohtani. And you're going to two DHs are your MVPs, most valuable players in Major League Baseball. I mean, what does that say about the state of the game?
Yeah, not a good look, right? Not a good look. And you're going to have to give it to Alvarez. He may win the Triple Crown, literally, Joe. He's going to have the batting. He's got a 29-point lead in the batting title, right? So he's winning the bat for sure. He's got a 2-run home run lead in the home run race. So, okay, that's close. And then he's got a 7-point cushion, 7-run RBI cushion for the second place team. So that one's, that one's pretty good too. It's the home run, but if he gets it, he's definitely getting it. Right? There's no way in the world you cannot give it to him if he gets the Triple Crown. National League, like you said, you could find some different guys if you wanted to. I mean, Ohtani. Listen, if you just want to give it to Ohtani every single year, you can. But the pitching, how much is that going to influence it? Should it? Should you just separate the two? He's not going to get the Cy Young like they set out supposedly this season. There are too many other guys now. He's been hurt too much where he hasn't pitched as much. So he's not getting that. So can you have an Ohtani year in which he doesn't get anything? Maybe. Who are you going to give it to? Freddie
Him and Pete Crow Armstrong, their numbers are identical. Home runs, they're both leadoff hitters. They're both hitting about the same. They're both, except Pete Crow Armstrong's got more stolen bases, I believe. But also, he plays the field, Scott. I mean, there's a big difference with that, no?
You would think. He's got 29 home runs or stolen bases. Ohtani only has 6. So you would think that would go into it. I don't. As hard as it is to figure out a season without Ohtani getting something, I don't think they would give it to him again if you had Pete Crow, especially if the Cubs, continue. It'd be nice if they won the division, but he's having as good a year as you'd expect. 26 homers, batting .290, has 69 RBIs, so he's on pace for 100 RBIs, probably end up with 30, 32, 33 home runs. That's a pretty strong year. So we'll see the love.
And it's really, not like Ohtani's going to blow by him.
Right, yeah.
I mean, he's not going to hit 60 home runs. He's not going to have like this one category in which he's, dominated here. Plus, you're going to have the Ohtani voting fatigue. There has to be.
Well,
at some point.
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, does him not playing the field, though, be offset by him pitching? Even though he hasn't pitched that much this year because of injuries. But he's pitched enough. Is that the thing that's going to make it flip back to being Ohtani? Well, okay, you didn't play the field, but you started 25 games or 20 games, whatever it ended up being. That's going to be tough. Ohtani is having a good year, 297, so it's about 7-8 points higher. Couple more home runs, one more RBI. That'll be real.
I'm telling you, it's good. It's good. We're gonna have two DHs as your MVPs. Unbelievable. Exactly correct here. All right. Now, you said you liked the Rangers to start with this year to win the West. So did I. They're at Globe Life tonight taking on the Orioles. Eovaldi versus Shane Baz. And Baz, by the way, has been lights out over his last 4 or 5 starts. He's been very good for Baltimore. The problem is Baltimore is averaging about 4 hits a game right now. The offense is MIA. And don't tell me about Rush because he's already been hurt, and this precedes all of that. So... but Eovaldi's had a couple of blow-ups. He's not been the Eovaldi of old. So I don't know. Are we laying too big a price here with Texas?
Yeah, this is a kind of a stay-away game for me because I can't bet Baltimore. They're lousy. Texas laying only $140 or so. So if I had to, that's where I would go. The Orioles had a 10-1 run against losing teams like Texas is, just barely. But maybe the over 7.5, which isn't a bad little number. Baz stinks. Eovaldi, as you said, has struggled. ERA over 4. That's where I would go. I can't bet Baltimore. Just can't. This Texas team, they started to turn things around, Joe, and then now they lost 6 of their last 8. It's like every single time with this team,
it's
they got a
crazy.
Receiver back last week, and they just can't get over that hump. They just can't for some reason. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I don't get it either with them there. Rockies are taking on the Cardinals. Leahy's another guy I keep waiting to get blown up, but he doesn't. Feltner for the Rockies. Rockies are better at home. I mean, they're almost an automatic fade on the road, no?
Yeah. I will say this about the Rockies, right? They're not good. We know that, but they're not like last year where they were just the worst team in the history of baseball, right? Their longest losing streak this year is 6 games, which, that's,
really?
For a team that's going to lose about 100 games, that's actually pretty good. They've avoided that, losing 8, 9, 10, 11 in a row or 11 out of 12 streak, right? So they're always 6-11 since the All-Star break. Cardinals stink. They managed to take 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, which is just amazing because they play bad baseball. But, I don't say this too often, but, the Colorado Rockies, Feltner, okay, pitched well his last time out. I know I went against him. I forget who he beat, but he did. Maybe the Rockies a little flyer on them. You got to take some underdogs every now and again. You're getting plus 150. I don't think the Cardinals should be 160 and change favorites over anybody. So I'll take a flyer on the Rockies if I had to.
Look at Leahy's last 6 starts. He strikes nobody out, although he doesn't walk a ton of guys, but he's given you 6 innings and he's only given up 1 earned at most there. And I don't understand it because he can't strike anybody out. It's unbelievable. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid. right, welcome back in as we look to close out another edition here of Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel, and in-game live game day coming up next. Gabe Morency, Kevin Walsh, they'll take the baton here, get you all set up with the 15-game slate. Major League Baseball, Mets, by the way, have put a run on the board to open up 1-0 over Pittsburgh in that one there. Rest of the games are going to start after the top of the hour. Well, we do got a few more games to go over here, Scotty, tonight. We'll start with the last one there. Detroit at San Francisco, Montero versus JT Brubaker. Remember that name. It's fair to say the Giants have completely thrown in the towel. Nobody has been better offensively than Detroit over the last couple of weeks here. They've been crushing it. Little too late, I guess. But at that price, I feel like Detroit. I'll just take Detroit. Give me Detroit.
Yeah, listen, to 12-7 since the All-Star break. They have played better. That's why I was a little surprised that they tore the whole thing down with, trading Skubal and Mize, actually. But no, okay, I'll take them. You're right. Montero's not too bad. San Francisco, that locker, it's even if you don't like Detroit, it's an anti-San Fran play. That locker room must be shot, right?
Yep.
The guys who are there don't want to be there, and then they traded away the really good players. I mean, you got a rookie manager who probably is not going to survive the season. It's just been bad. Just bad. At least Detroit is showing a little something. They've won a couple of games since the trade deadline. They've not folded up 10 at all. So, yeah, I like the Tigers. They're live dogs.
Yeah, I like Montero. I'll take them absolutely here. Also, Minnesota on their way. They did not get swept against the Royals. They won yesterday. But the problem is now they got a hand to Milwaukee. Drohan going from Milwaukee. Zebby Matthews from Minnesota, who got demoted after he got lit up his last time out. In fact, he's been lit up the entire month of July. He gets demoted. Joe Ryan goes down. Now they got to call him back up and start against one of the better lineups in baseball. I'll take Milwaukee. I'm not overthinking it. I'll take Milwaukee here, Scott. What are you thinking?
Absolutely. Minnesota had about a week to 10-day decent run, got to 500. Like, oh, yeah, the Twins are good. The Twins are awful, right? I got a couple of numbers here that are just like head-scratching when it comes to Milwaukee. Like, numbers like, I got to look this up. This can't be, right? How about this one, Joe, with the Brewers? Interleague home games against Minnesota, in essence, right? 42-11. The Brewers at home facing the American League. Is that possible? 42-11? And how about this one?
That's crazy.
Game one of a series, right? Game one of a series, like tonight, right? Last two seasons, the Brewers are 48-16. 32 games over 5. Is that possible in game one of a series? That's what I read. I got those notes from, where did I get those? Covers.com. I mean, that's just freaking amazing. Those two numbers. So, yeah, give me the Brewers.
They don't hit a ton of home runs, but they manufacture runs. They push guys over. And that bullpen, they get a lead, Scott, going into the seventh inning, and it's over. I mean, the bullpen just comes in, and that's the end of it. At home, man, oh, man, if I'm the Dodgers, I don't want Milwaukee having home field advantage. I'll tell you that right now, because those numbers you're talking about are unbelievable here. And the best part is they're not that far. It's not like they're blowing the Cubs out of the water in the Central, right, Scott? They're not that far behind the Cubs as far as record goes. So they can't coast. They have to keep winning games in this spot here tonight. So kind of crazy to me how good they have been. Miami is at home. That's where our good friend, Craig Nish, by the way, is at the stadium here tonight. I said, Craig, no matter what happens, the Marlins are going to be better off tonight as opposed to last night against Atlanta because they got the Angels. There is no reason why Miami can't beat the Angels tonight, especially with, I believe, good old Sandy Alcantara on the mound, right? Or is the misery going to continue here tonight?
Man, I bet them second half team total wins, and I'm kicking myself here. Here's another decent little split, right? As bad as the Angels are, they're actually 18-18, 500 during the day. But this game is at night, Scott. Yeah, and that's where this comes into play. 26-53. They're doing all their losing at night. Yeah, they are bad. Zach Neto's from Miami for LA. You want to play a little hunch prop bets? Bet Zach Neto. Ooh. But otherwise, it's Miami.
Oh, I kind of like that. Gausman taking on Kansas City, his first game with the Cubs. No way I can bet Kansas City. It's just not going to happen. Always a pleasure, Scotty, to see you in-game live. Game day is coming up. Gabe Morency, Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again on Monday for Game Time Decisions. Enjoy.